It's been a ton of fun to hear everyone's ideas about what the coolest car they could buy at any given budget is. Obviously, that's a car enthusiast discussion that we always love to have. And so we did $60,000 the first week, kind of the car trek budget, and last week we did $10,000. And we were thinking about going a little bit more upmarket this week, but then another number kind of rose to the top of the discussion, $1,200. That's right, most Americans, it appears, are going to be getting $1,200 to kind of help with this time of quarantine and shelter in place and recession that might happen and things like that. And so a lot of people have $1,200 burning a hole in their pocket. Now, of course, the obvious objection is buying any of these cars would be the absolute worst thing that anyone who just had $1,200 could ever do. And that's very, very true. They would all involve a tremendous amount of maintenance. Inevitably, they're terrible cars. Most $1,200 cars are terrible. All we're saying is they are the coolest. So I asked a bunch of my friends and I said, hey, let's go. If it needs to be a $2,000 asking price, we'll assume some margin of shrewd negotiation. So we went out to the internets and looked for what we could find. I found a couple really cool things. The first is a B5 Audi S4, one of my favorite cars, the first kind of high performance car that I ever had. Tough to find one with a stick that would be like that, but there are tons of automatics, and they are, many of them, in absolutely terrible shape. They're not very reliable, they are not inexpensive to maintain, but they are an awful lot of fun. I love that twin turbo V6, and I enjoyed that car a lot. The other thing I found is a Land Rover Discovery, also a miserably unreliable car, but I love Land Rovers, and I think that would be a terrific choice. So those were my choices. These are theirs.
I started out buying $1,200 cars, so you got to be a little creative. And this is actually a car I bought a few weeks back. We bought it for a donor car. It's a 2001 Chevrolet Camaro Z28. And I know the first thing you're thinking of, Rob, you didn't buy no LS Camaro for $1,200. Aha! You didn't see the condition of this Camaro. Salvage title, high miles, and the inside of it looks like old Joe Exotic's been keeping tigers on the inside of this thing.
For a budget of $2,000, there's nothing but crap online. But I did find a 1996 Cadillac Fleetwood limo, blue on blue, 44,000 miles, supposedly still runs. I mean, you can't beat that for $2,000.
I think the most fun car you can get for under $2,000 would have to be the 2002 Nissan SER Spec V. 6-speed manual transmission, LSD front end, 170 horsepower. Man, that thing is a ton of fun.
Hey everybody, Randy Popst. And yeah, I hot lap $1 million Paganis and $500,000 Porsches. A couple months ago, got the lap record at Road Atlanta in GT2 RS. But really, I'm a grassroots guy. My dad was in the Air Force career, and there's something about cheap cars. And $1,200, there's only really one answer from this guy, an old Volvo, preferably the rear drives. If you can find a manual transmission, 740, especially a wagon, and you can, for $1,200, cool.
For $1,200, I'd get myself a first or second gen Toyota Camry, like this one right here. This is a 1990, so it's a 30-year-old car, still running strong, and if you shop smart, you'll be able to buy your car and still have money left over for groceries.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another one of Ed's crazy shopping for even with less money now. So he sends me this thing and says, Damon, pick a car that's worth $1,200. I said, nope, impossible. I'm out. Count me out of this one. And then he sends me a screenshot of a BMW E38 7 Series. The irony is I actually wanted this car so bad when I was younger. I thought it was just the ultimate luxury car, spoke class, sophistication, basically everything I wasn't. That's why I wanted it, to try to be somebody I wasn't.
For that price, once again, right in my wheelhouse. I actually just had a buddy pick up this vehicle for $350. It's a V8, it's 2 doors, it's leather, wood, it's got the provenance of a high-end manufacturer. That's right, it's the Mercedes-Benz CLK 430. That's a V8 coupe, Mercedes-Benz heritage, still a fun car, and even leaves you money left over to do whatever you want to it.
The best thing to do with a government check is to spend it in a frivolous manner. And the best way to waste money is to go racing. But for $1,200, it doesn't really get you much racing car, so pretty much have to go race lemons. So you just go on Auto Tempest and look up pretty much anything. Citroen, Peugeot, Chevy Blazer, whatever runs and has some speed holes already built in, and then you go racing with your friends. But you'll need a lot more stimulus checks to keep up the racing budget.
What's my pick for what I would do with the $1,200 stimulus money right now? The most fun car I can find is this 1994 Dodge Shadow V6 manual car. The inside is extremely clean, 2,600 pounds, 140 horsepower, and I think with a few tips from Ed, I can get them down to $1,200. It would be a major bucket of fun.
All right, so the price on this was a little bit difficult, but after much deliberation, I decided to go with a 4th generation Chevy Camaro RS. I did find a couple examples of this car well under $2,000, and with a little bit of haggling, I'm sure you could get it to $1,200 exactly.
I've got 3 choices based upon how society is gonna go. The first one is a Porsche 944 with a blown clutch. Found it for $1,000, so you fix it up. A little bit later, if everything's cool, you got a nice $6,000 sports car to drive around. My next choice is actually not a car, but a 1990s or 2000s Honda XR motorcycle. Get at least a 400cc engine, it's a street legal dirt bike, so you can have lots of fun, or if poop hits the fan, you just go for it. Now my third choice, if it's full Mad Max zombie apocalypse, you go out and get an old Volkswagen Sandrail. You're not going to get a real nice one for the money, but no big deal because you could weld armor plating to it or places to hold weapons or food rations. But if everything's cool, you just paint it yellow and go jump sand dunes with hippies.
I found a 2002 Audi A4 Quattro. This car is a 3-liter manual gearbox, theft recovery car. All the body panels, glass, tires, everything was in great shape. Didn't have a passenger seat, and it didn't have a lot of the dash and no radio. Went to a local junkyard, found a passenger seat for about $150. The guy tossed in a lot of the dash pieces that were needed and hooked up a Bluetooth speaker, and car's awesome.
This one's easy. I gotta go with the cheap race car at this price, specifically the Honda Civic of my Lemons team, which has a moving airplane wing on the roof. It's called Our Lady of Perpetual Downforce. It's manual, lightweight, 200 horsepower, no ABS, no power anything, and it's just crazy fun to race on tracks like Road Atlanta and Barber. So if you're gonna get a cheap car, make it a cheap race car and definitely have some fun with it.
Now prices on these have been going up, so you may have to look around a bit to find one for $1,200, but you can get a 60s, rear-engined, flat 6, air-cooled with a 4-speed for $1,200. Chevy Corvair.
Now that price point is money if you lower your expectations just a tad. I'm going to run right out and attempt to find myself around a 2nd generation Honda CRX, and if I'm lucky, I'll be able to find an SI version of that vehicle. Now I used Auto Tempest and scoured the market until I found one almost locally here in Indiana. In Terre Haute, there is a wide body 89 CRX at $2,100. With a little shrewd negotiation, I'll be money, and I know I could pick that baby up for my stimulus check.
It is far more fun to drive a slow car fast than a fast car slow. The choice is obvious. It's a Mazda Miata. Tons of mods that are available, fairly inexpensive. You can do them yourself, and if you want to make it a track car, it's even better.
Well, actually, that's about £1,000 in English money. And this week, I bought a London taxi for £1,000 or $1,200. It's diesel. It pulls like a train. It's completely impractical, completely stupid, and smokes like a train. But yeah, bought a taxi.
So the car I would get for my $1,200 stimulus check would probably be a W220 Mercedes S-Class. This is the early 2000s S-Class, and I used to own one of these cars, and you get a lot of car for the money. You get heated and cooled massaging seats, you get a really awesome V8, you have an automatic transmission, and it's an amazing daily driver. It's a great place to be. You do need some extra money for repairs, which can be expensive, but if you get those sorted out, it is an incredible, incredible deal for around $1,200.
So we got a $1,200 budget this week, and of course there is only one option in that price range, and it is the perfect car, the 3rd generation Toyota Supra. You can find the worst examples of that generation car in this price range. Here's one I found for $875. It needs a head gasket, which I've never heard of a 3rd gen 7M needing. That's a totally unheard of thing.
For $1,200, we all know you're not going to find a car that doesn't need another $1,200 in work just to be safe or even to drive well. So why not spend $500 and take the remaining amount of money and build yourself a 24 hours of lemons race car like this one, a 1970 Toyota Corona. This car has beat Porsches, this car has beat BMWs, this car has beat Corvettes, and for $500, so can you.
$1,200, what would I buy? I found a 1993 Acura Legend, 5-speed, pretty crappy, on Craigslist near Washington, D.C. Needs a fuel pump. I think I can negotiate down, or I can buy the part and fix it myself, and it'll be a lot of fun to run around in, so why not?
All right, let's just say you can't get anything fun for $1,200, but what you can get is a $5,000 car with damage. So that's what I did here with my Mercedes. I got a damaged $5,000 car for $1,100 a couple of years ago. That's the play. Something easily repairable, junkyard parts, probably from an insurance auction.
Steve's POV here, $1,200 stimulus. 1986 Mazda RX-7 FC. This generation is bound to go up in price, and with $1,200, you got a lot left over to buy some extra parts.
What you should do is get a Volvo 240. They came in a coupe, they came in a 4-door, and they came in a wagon. Of course, I'm very preferential to the wagon because wagon life is best life, but you can find these things for next to nothing, and sometimes people give them away for free running and sort of in bad shape, but you can get them all day long.
Hey guys, Rich Rebuilds here. I am known as the Tesla guy, unfortunately, but I will tell you I like other cool stuff as well, like this Nissan 240, for example. It's all clapped out. It's only $800, so I'm way under budget. It comes with a turbo kit and all kinds of other cool parts. It needs a battery, but it says it runs strong. You're probably gonna get killed when you go see this thing, but check it out anyways. For $800, you can't go wrong.
I found a E39 540, a 2002 model year with a stick. And this car's near and dear to me. I like these very much. I've had 2 of them. I had a 530 automatic in high school, which was all right. And then 3 years ago, I had a Dynan S2 Stage 2 M5, and that car was just a lot of fun.
Okay, for $1,200, what can you buy? Well, the answer is probably not a lot. Unless you're here in Australia and New Zealand, you can buy one of these. Ford Falcon XR6. Barra engined, looks a bit like a Crown Vic, goes like a fast Crown Vic, independent rear. It's actually a sports car. It's $1,200. In fact, this is my one. I didn't even pay $1,200 for it. It was cheaper than that. It's repossessed. Has a minor issue or two, but for the money, how can you go wrong?
I shouldn't buy any more cars, that's for sure. But if I were, I found this great 1985 Ford Mustang convertible on Craigslist today that would be just awesome to cruise around to the beach in the summertime. Anyway, as someone who's been buying $1,000 beaters his whole life, I think there are tons of deals to be found.
The obvious choice would be a Lincoln Town Car Limo. I own one very similar to that, and there's nothing cooler than rolling out of your own limo. And if you don't have anyone to drive you, then what you do is you drive up in the front, park someplace, you have tinted windows, you crawl through the window in the back, and then jump out the back. People think you have a chauffeur.
What's the coolest car I could buy for $1,200? My mind went immediately to the BMW E30 325i. It's been a while, but I bought and sold a bunch of those at around the $1,000 number. I've converted a lot of those into race cars for series like Chump Car and Lemons, but get even a high mile one, 200,000 miles, you can just bang that thing off the rev limiter for 24 hours straight and lock it up, bring it back out for the next race. I mean, they are really bulletproof.
What car to buy with your $1,200 stimulus check? Now, suspending the seriousness of the situation at the moment And speaking completely hypothetically, I'm gonna buck the trend here and say you shouldn't buy a car at all, but rather you should modify whatever it is you drive by modifying the single most overlooked component of any car, and that is a spacer. Now you're thinking to yourself, what, the spacer? Yeah, the spacer, the one located between the seat and the steering wheel. Look, at the risk of sounding self-serving, my recommendation would be that you go to a high-performance driving school, because the reality is, whether you drive a 1,000 horsepower track beast or a $1,200 government-funded beater, the single most important factor in how that car performs is you. So get out there, go to a school, get better.
$1,200, I'd look for an E23 BMW. That's BMW's first generation 7 Series. They built them from 77 to 87. They're definitely quirky. They're definitely a little different looking, but I like them. And I think a lot of other folks like them too. It's one of those cars, you take it to the gas station, someone's going to walk over to you and say, hey, is that a 7 Series? My uncle had one of those, or my brother had one of those, or I grew up and I sat in the back seat of one of those when I was a kid. So I think it's got that appeal. They're fairly easy to work on. That inline 6 is certainly tested and true, and you can get your hands in there, change the plugs pretty easily. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with that car.
You might not think that $1,200 is a lot for a cool car, but 90s GM has you covered. Just pick up anything with their supercharged 3.8 liter. So we're talking Regal GS, Buick Park Avenue. You can get a Grand Prix GTP with that engine. And if you get it with high enough mileage, maybe a little bit of rust, you'll be right around that $1,200 mark. They have 240 horsepower and a ton of torque. They're front wheel drive, making them absolute tire shredding machines.
So for $1,200, I found a 1966 Chevy pickup truck. It's got a manual, it's a 6-cylinder. It is covered in rust, and like it's catastrophic levels of rust. But who cares? Use it as a rat rod daily beater / parts hauler. Why not get something that's functional and fun?
I had no idea what $1,200 would get you these days, so I did a really quick search on Auto Tempest, put in some criteria, main one being under $2,000 and a manual transmission. And this is what I found. Actually pretty decent. So a 2000 Nissan Maxima GXE with a 5-speed. So these had 222 horse, a 3-liter 6-cylinder, pretty spacious, pretty decent cars back then.
Thank you all so much. Those were some awesome ideas. I've really enjoyed that. We'll do another one next week. Probably a higher price point. I don't know, $250,000 or $1 million. See what people can find in that range. But I hope you're continuing to enjoy this. Let us know in the comments what you would buy the coolest car you can for $1,200. As always, thank you to Premier Financial. They don't finance $1,200 cars, but a $1,200 payment with Premier's leasing programs would probably do about a $100,000 car, maybe a little bit less. Certainly check them out at the link in the description below. They're a great supporter of VinWiki, and they can really kind of supercharge your buying power towards your dream car. Their leasing programs for vintage and exotic cars are the best in the business. Mitch and his team are awesome. Thank them for their support of VinWiki, and use them to go out finding your own dream cars.